Welcome to another edition of the Around the NFL broadcast. My name is Dan Hansis. Come to you from a virtual room filled with some heroes. Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler. Boys, I know it's late May, but we are flying. We are on fire right now. We got a lot coming up. The latest on Julio Jones. We also are going to play a game, what they say at OTAs, but what they really mean. That's where we come in. Feels like a solid show for late May. What do you guys think?
I mean, we heard players weren't going to show up for OTAs. They did show up. We weren't sure we were going to show up this week. We did show up. We're professionals.
You know, we are like mere days away from being 100 days away to the start of the football season. Ooh. So, you know, the off season has shot by already, and we keep grinding. That's what we do. We've always been grinders, and the pace does not slow for us, Dan.
Pinch yourself, Mark. This is all happening. All right, but before we get to anything, let's get caught up with the news.
You know, it's on all of us. It's on all 11 guys to, do their job every play, to step out. That's how we're going to make big plays is everyone doing their job, and it's not on any one person more than the other. It's about everyone executing together as a unit, and that's how we're going create explosive plays, and be a productive offense.
I know this was said when he was drafted, but the Eli Manning parallels, just the way he carries himself, the tone of his voice, he kind of looks like him. It's all a little bit weird that this is where the Giants went post Eli. And yet here we are. Mark, he's right, of course. I mean, there's a lot of cliches being spouted right now at these pressers. It does take everyone. I think that's an Army slogan. But at the same time, it's like ultimately a lot of this goes back to Daniel Jones and whether he can make the leap in year 3.
Yeah, because if it's not happening in year 3 in 2021, when is it happening? You've got the weapons around you. I mean, if anything, Dave Gettleman deserves credit for going out and totally amping up this passing game. I guess my question comes down to someone else that it falls on, and that's Jason Garrett. I mean, we are in a league right now where there's 6 or 7 coaches you could point to immediately and say, no matter who your quarterback is, this coach puts this quarterback into a position to succeed. I mean, the Giants, there are only 3 teams in the league threw for fewer passing yards per game than the Giants last year. They were tied for last in touchdowns. They had the 2nd most sacks. It means Daniel Jones is not producing, but he's getting punished. So we've got to find a way, if you're Jason Garrett, to maximize and I think, change this offense. Last year, it was a real flatline affair.
Yeah, number one, I think, has Daniel Jones been working out? It looks pretty swole. The traps, maybe I just have never seen Daniel Jones talk. I thought he looks a little bigger. And then it's a great point on Garrett, Mark, because they draft Kadarius Toney, and here's a receiver. People are like, well, he doesn't really run routes, but you just get him in space, and if you're creative, he's going to make plays for you. And who is the last coordinator that I expect to create plays for his talent outside? It's Jason Garrett. I'm sorry.
Here we go.
I like Daniel Jones. If you look at PFF's rankings of quarterbacks in a clean pocket last year, Daniel Jones ranks 12th. I think he's a lot better than that touchdown-interception ratio. If he gets protected, that's who else needs to step up. I think Daniel Jones will be just fine.
If Jason Garrett wasn't the coach of the Cowboys, he would not get nearly the amount of grief that he gets. But because he had that platform and the Cowboys and Garrett are punching bags, we talk about the guy like we took him off the street and he has no idea even what an offense is in the NFL. Like, who is this man? He's my quarterback? Okay, does he throw this way? Oh, okay, we'll do that. I mean, some of the Garrett slander. I'm not like a Garrett supporter, but come on now. Always.
I mean, if he wasn't the Cowboys coach, he wouldn't have stayed there for 8 or 9 years, with ownership allowing him to be there. I think we just saw him a little too much. And last year it wasn't uninspiring.
I'm glad you brought
Dan,
up.
What we're saying is there's a group of coaches that they're going to get the most out of all their players. And the Giants now, they've got a star-studded offense and your quarterback is a big part of it, but do you trust Garrett to be one of those 9 or 10 coaches? I mean, I don't think it's outrageous to suggest that he's not that guy.
He could be. I mean, I feel like some of those Cowboys offenses were top 10. Greg, you were just singing Tony Romo praises on the podcast this week. Guess who was calling the plays for him?
Yeah, I mean, what an amazing obstacle Tony Romo had to overcome there. Yeah, Tony Romo. I'm glad you brought it up. One of the most underrated quarterbacks of his generation, somehow. I don't know how. And
I'm glad you brought up that you'd never heard Daniel Jones speak before, because neither have I, and I didn't want to be the only guy to say it. So great. He seems interesting. By the way, I do like the idea of, because these press conferences are so kind of ridiculous this time of year, someone just coming out and just using Army slogans, just being like, yeah, we're an army of one, the few, the proud, the Giants, be all you can be, and just see if anybody notices.
Make the Giants excited again. Please, Daniel Jones. We've been waiting. It's been over a decade.
In other news, Aaron Jones still talking. Kenny Mayne said goodbye on another network, so Aaron Rodgers went on that network and talked about his future and his issues with the Packers, which he says are philosophical. He had long hair. He looked like he was a surfer in an early 90s Cinemax movie. And he said, listen, it's not about Jordan Love, the quarterback that I'm putting in a horrendously awkward situation to start his career. It's about the front office. He didn't say that exactly, but we know exactly who he's talking about, Brian Gutekunst and the people that were behind the decision to draft a quarterback in the first round. I mean, I'm a little tired of it, Mark. I'm just a little bit tired of Aaron Rodgers complaining. He's like a rich kid that's talking about, I don't have the 2022 Mustang, only the 2021 model.
It's a fair point. We're getting a lot of Aaron Rodgers at a time of year where we kind of get a break from these guys and their verbosity, but he will continue to rage on. And he's, I love that he's doing this while he's on vacation with an actress. That's wonderful. I mean, the thing for me is like, here's the sticking point. Part of the conversation that we've heard is that he went and asked for more money and they weren't into doing that. And I think that's where a real divorce begins, where it's like the commitment is not there financially. You went and drafted someone. Alex Smith came out this week and said that when the Chiefs made a plan to go get Patrick Mahomes, he was filled in entirely. He was part of that plan. And you look at even Jimmy Garoppolo, he's also been treated with a certain amount of respect. And I think this is the portrait of a relationship breaking down. When we break up with people sometimes, you don't always know the reasons. You're not always able to pinpoint it to one thing. I think Rodgers is kind of dancing around that for us, but it's pretty clear that it's Gutekunst.
Take us through your most difficult breakup.
It's money. You want to show me respect? Give me some money. It sounds like Rodgers wanted an extension, like you said, after the season. And when he didn't get that on the MVP, then he took the Mark Sessler approach, which we would all love to take, which is like, wake me up in July. Aaron Rodgers has the ability to stay away from the office. He doesn't need to go back to the office in these post-COVID or times. He's in Hawaii. He's having fun, and wake me up in July. It's the right idea to stay away for right now. Look at Miles Teller.
Who's this? What's happening here?
This is Miles Teller, the actor, who's hanging out with Rodgers, and I think he's just having a little fun, but who knows? Maybe he's the new Adam Schefter. Maybe we've got news coming up, and we don't even know about it.
You know what? I look at that photo, and I'm thinking to myself, this Miles Teller fellow is doing something right. We need to get on the Miles Teller track. Mark, take us through your most difficult breakup.
I mean, there were a few, but I mean, I think it's harder when you break up with the other person and then they're like, give me a reason, tell me why. And you're like 15. I'm like, I can't even process what's happened here, but I don't have like a list of clear bullet point reasons. Why am I discussing this here on this network right now, Dan?
Cheyenne Woodley is the actress, by the way, that Aaron Rodgers is currently with. Big Little Lies. She was excellent in. Just saying that. Finally in the news,
very good.
Adam Vinatieri hanging up the cleats. Probably the most famous kicker in NFL history, certainly in the last 30 years, announced this week that he is ending his run after a quarter century in the league. So many monster kicks, both with the Patriots and then the Colts. And Greg, is Adam Vinatieri on the Mount Rushmore of Patriots?
Oh my gosh. Of player? I think he has to be. Yeah, he is, because it doesn't happen without this kick. It really doesn't. The fact that they closed old Foxborough Stadium, one of the worst stadiums in sports history, with the least amount of winning, with the greatest two kicks ever, and then followed it up a couple weeks later with one of, I think, the greatest upset of all time. I know your Jets would have a disagreement back in Super Bowl III, but this Patriots
But we didn't use any cameras either, but on the sideline.
Right. I mean, it never would have happened if it wasn't for Vinatieri. So Belichick's right. He said he's in the rarest echelon of players whose achievements will never be matched. No one else, I think, will ever be able to do what Vinatieri did.
I think also if you were to change or alter the Patriots dynasty just a bit and have it maybe end after those first three Super Bowls, Vinatieri would be looked at completely differently. I mean, he was pivotal in each of those Super Bowl wins, and to get there, as you mentioned, in the snow game. I mean, he was one of these. I know we don't talk about quarterback wins unless like you get taken out of the football community if you mention that as a factor. But some of these kicker wins that he produced were fantastic. I mean, the Panthers game, he hit the field goal at the end. The Eagles game, mid-fourth quarter. We know what happened in the Rams game, so he was total money when it mattered.
What a good kicker. That's my final takeaway on it. Coming up next on the broadcast, Julio Jones. It's happening. He's going to be traded. But where? And when? Steve Weish joined us on the podcast this week. We share that conversation up next on the broadcast. If you're new to us here on NFL Network, Around the NFL is also a podcast. Scan that QR code with your cell phone camera, and you can download our latest episode. Here's a little bit of our conversation with Steve Weish on the Julio Jones trade saga.
I have heard for a while that Julio Jones was disgruntled. I did not know that he had requested a trade, but I mean, again, that didn't surprise me. And the fact, going back to the draft, when the news first broke that teams were calling the Falcons about a move for Julio Jones, and the Falcons were saying, look, we've got to fix our cap. We've got to do a market correction. Julio's the guy people want, right? He's the one with value. They're not calling about other people. He's got a big contract. We have to listen. There was always the caveat of we've got to be careful how we handle this because Julio is a popular player. He's meant a lot to the city and a lot to this franchise. So we've got to be delicate here, which led me to believe, again, this is experience saying Julio's probably not happy. They don't want to paint him as a jaded or disgruntled player because then that could diminish his value when people know that he wants out. So when they continue to say that we want to protect the image, they'll take the PR hit for moving a popular player for a salary cap reasons. Again, the whole time I was thinking there's more to this. Julio probably wants out. We've heard some of the disenchantment before. So again, this is no surprise. And as I reported on Total Access last night, this is no longer a matter of this possibly being a trade. This is likely or definitely going to be a trade.
I would ask you this, Steve, because let's start. So the bedrock, the foundation is we understand that Julio Jones has, maybe just the marriage is over. They've run their course, and maybe it's not, massive issues, but it's an end point. And the Falcons, some stuff that I read that they wanted to do right by him also, that he's done so much for the team that there is a level of respect. But let's be honest, there aren't 25 teams lining up with first-round picks. There's a gaggle of teams that fit cap space-wise and fit in terms of what they'd offer, and they just go for it. But the Falcons are in a tough spot without really essentially a bidding war not really seeming to happen here. So what is this business about, like Julio Jones wants to play for the Patriots or he'd be comfortable going X, Y, and Z? Why do the Falcons have to cater to Julio Jones on any level? I mean, is that what they're trying to do just so that there's a nice final chapter here?
No, but let me tell you something. And Jimmy Johnson, taught me this years ago when he took over covering the Dolphins. It's like, look, if you've got a good player who's been good in the community, has a good image, you don't want to crap on the guy if you move him, right? You don't want to trade him to the Siberian Huskies, if you can avoid it. And you want to trade him to a contender. I mean, Julio is 32. He's got value, but if possible, maybe you do trade him to a contender because in that way you might get more of a value pick. Okay, let's just say it is the Packers, right? The Packers might be willing to give up a first rounder because with Julio Jones, that pick is going to be probably 29, 30, 31, or 32. So they may say, okay, we might be able to forsake a back end one, right? Which I don't think is going to happen. I think it's going to be a 2 or below, but even if it's a back end 2, that's fine. But if all you're getting is a team like, let's say the Raiders, you don't know if they're going to be middle of the pack, bad or good. You might be saying, okay, Raiders might be willing to give up a second rounder that could be 15 or lower or 15 or higher. But, it just all depends on where you think it's going to be. Just like when the Raiders dealt Khalil Mack. They're like, hey, there are teams that came with better offers than the Bears, but they felt the Bears weren't going to be very good, and they were going to get a higher pick out of it. So there's all kinds of things that go into it, but a lot of it is if you're a new regime and you're trying to establish credibility and, look, you don't all of a sudden, okay, a guy's disgruntled, let's send him to a franchise that's had his issues like the Jaguars or someplace like that. Let's try to send him to a contender. And then everyone would be like, okay, that was okay. That really helps out in the agent world, the player world about the perception of your club and the perception of your leadership. So you cannot overlook that element.
Yeah, this Todd France guy sounds like a serious fellow, so I hear you on that front.
I also think that the timing of the trade is where the cap makes a huge difference. So in the world that, okay, some teams had an idea Julio might be out there before the draft, and the Falcons clearly didn't get an offer that they thought was worth it. Well, that was, partly because whatever that offer had to be, it had to be worth the fact that they weren't saving any money against the cap to trade Julio Jones before June 1st. If they are trading him after June 1st, then you're saving $15 million in cap space, and that helps out with, the rookies and everything else you want to do. So if no one was blowing them away in April, which I think it's safe to say, it sounds like no one was coming with a first-round pick, then it's like, well, let's wait until June 1st. Let's let it sit a little bit, and we trade him then, and we save the cap space then. And I think what Julio Jones was doing with this phone call was that he saw all this story popping up last week, and I think at some level either Shannon Sharp saw an in, and I think people aren't giving him enough credit to think that he just sprung it on and saw an in to make some news with a friend of his or someone he knows. Or Julio Jones or someone in his camp said, let's start taking control of this story a little bit. Let's make it clear what we want, that we do want out, so teams know. And that's how that call happens. And Julio deserves a best supporting actor nom, because you just get the feel like he's so cool in all situations that he's just got to be who he is. And that's why it just sounded so natural. But it makes total sense now why they're trading him. I still don't love it as a football fan, because I wanted to see that team together and score 35 points a game. But the fact that he wanted out makes all of the reasonings from the last couple of weeks make a lot more sense, because it's really about that they both want out of this marriage, not just the Falcons.
Do you think, Steve, that Julio Jones is on this team a week from now?
Yeah. Look, and guys, I've been reporting this for months now. Pay attention to what Steve White reports on every one of your NFL media platforms.
Absolutely.
The Falcons are willing to take this up to training camp, right? Because we have this June 1st trigger date, but what's going to happen now is teams are in mini camps and things like this. So they want to see how these young guys go, or guys they've acquired fit in to see before they make a move like this, right? Julio Jones is maybe a special case because he's such a great player and he's such a physical specimen. But there's a lot of things we talk about, but the Falcons are willing to take this up to training camp to see what type of offers they can get. Now, they may find themselves by waiting so long getting an offer they really didn't want, but at some point this is going to happen. And we're also saying, well, there's only a couple teams with the cap space to take this on. Does anybody remember when the Los Angeles Rams had no cap space, but then they traded away Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib and found the cap space to acquire Jalen Ramsey? Guys, let's give these general managers and cap guys credit.
Right.
Let's not discount teams from making moves. Teams can be creative on how they want to do this stuff. So, again, there's going to be a wide net cast. So there's going to be multiple teams coming after Julio Jones. Again, I don't know what the compensation is going to be, but if you feel he's the guy who's going to get you over the top, teams are going to come and get him.
But here's my one thing. If I was a Falcons fan, it's I understand you want to do the right thing, as you mentioned before. But if teams are saying, look, we know the Falcons are in a tough spot here, we're going to lowball them. None of us are giving a first round pick. At most, it's going to be something that would never look the equal of Julio Jones. Is there a world where they get tough and say, we're not trading him for a bag of peanuts and a spoon? We want more. And if no one's giving it to us, Julio Jones is not being traded. Would he just simply not play, do you think? Is there ever a world where maybe the trade doesn't happen?
I mean, it could get ugly. If everyone's saying we're not going to give up, a good deal for a 32-year-old guy who's probably going into the Hall of Fame, I don't know. But when's the last time you've seen 31 NFL teams try to collude and do something like that? There are owners out there who want Julio Jones to come put their team over the top. I mean,
if a second can get it done, that seems like not that much to me. It does,
we've covered this league long enough. Some team is going to do this, and it's probably going to come down to a bidding war to get it done. Look, if nothing else, Julio's got a very powerful agent, Jimmy Sexton. He's calling these teams saying, if you want him, put this on the table and get it done.
Well, just to that point, though, if this is something that's been out there for a while, who Julio wanted out, if a market for, let's say, a first-round pick didn't develop before the draft, why should we assume it's going to develop sometime during the summer? What in your mind changes?
Because next year's picks are less valuable.
It's for futures. It's futures. You don't know where you're going to pick. I mean, if you think you're going to be really good, again, let's say you're a team like the Colts, right? Your roster's pretty well stacked. And then you say, okay, we'll give up a first rounder next year, even a second rounder plus a third. Those are probably going to be back end twos. They're going to be back end picks, whatever round they're going to be. And you do it. You're thinking differently before your current draft or your current season as opposed to future years. Plus, you know what? A guy may pop an Achilles while he's training. A guy may pop a hammy or something, during off-season workouts. So again, that's why I think this is going to be a slow burn. I don't think this is going to happen anytime soon. And frankly, when it comes to veterans and things like this, I things do tend to play out once we kind of get near that Hall of Fame game training camp trigger date. So I wouldn't think anything happens to the end of June, early July.
Steve Weish, the moral compass of NFL media. Up next, what they say versus what they mean. OTAs edition. We fill you in up next on the broadcast.
He continues to just grow and improve.
Just getting on the same page and comfortable with each other.
Competition at every position.
Just go to work, get better every day.
He's going to continue to grow.
Whatever happens, happens. Competition elevates everybody's play.
You can be on the same page.
Getting better each and every day.
We set some goals for them, and it was to go out there and compete.
I'm here to play football, and whatever happens, happens.
We're excited to grow with them.
Go out there and be.
Competition is great.
What a great team we have behind the scenes here at the Around the NFL broadcast, putting together all the cliches, all the tropes of OTA season for media availability, and figured maybe we now could step up and deliver our own public service. People say things in these pressers, but they don't really say what they mean. We're here to translate, Mr. Sessler.
Yeah, I mean, this show it is about this. We go from disgruntled quarterback and Aaron Rodgers to disgruntled wide receiver and Julio Jones, back to Green Bay to talk to running back Aaron Jones about the progress of Jordan Love, the second-year quarterback, the first-round draft pick, who has sort of served as an inciting incident to endless chaos. Let's see what Aaron Jones had to say about Love's progress.
Hey, Aaron, in what ways does Jordan Love look different? In what ways does he look like he's made progress, do you think?
You can tell he's a lot more comfortable out there. Just even from communicating in the huddle to the command of the huddle to just everything. He's had a year under his belt. Like I said, he's had time to watch and learn, and so you can tell it's a little bit different from what it was before. And he's going to continue to grow, and I'm happy to be here working with him.
Well, okay. I'm sure you're happy to be working with him, but if you're someone that in the offseason, unaware of what was going to happen in Green Bay, decided, I'm going to sign a 4-year contract extension with the Packers. The money's nice, but if Aaron Rodgers is suddenly in Denver 2 months from now, this Aaron is going to be quite annoyed, gentlemen.
Maybe Jordan Love does look great. I mean, this was a guy that everyone, maybe, you know.
I think so.
I was also taking Aaron Jones has the same problem I do, where his eyes are just too watery. It always looks like I'm crying and I'm just like wiping. But no, it's just like a problem that we have to go through. Aaron Jones, how can you not be impressed with Jordan Love? This guy is very physically talented. There is a chance that Jordan Love could be awesome. Like, we shouldn't totally eliminate that.
And you're also, don't overlook the possibility of what the previous question was for Aaron Jones. They could have asked him about a dog that ran away from home when he was 7, and he was just kind of going off on that, and he got emotional.
That's true.
Now we're moving back to football questioning. Yeah, he could be good, but it is one of my favorite of all the tropes of the offseason is second-year quarterback. Everything is slower for me now, and that's what they're saying here, that Jordan Love has more command and all that stuff. We'll see. We know nothing about Jordan Love. That's something that we got to take away from all this. We have not seen anything from him yet. Greg, what about you?
Yeah, we do know something about Teddy Bridgewater, and I think you can read between the lines in what Von Miller, the great Broncos defensive end, had to say this week.
And when we got Teddy, I felt like that was a great move. Teddy's ready to come in and play. Teddy's ready to come in and compete. And I think that's what we need in the quarterback position. And I'm not saying that this guy's going to be the number one guy. This guy's going to be number one. I'm not saying that yet, but we have a healthy quarterback competition that can only give us positive things out that group. I just want to win and compete. We lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 5 years in a row. I want to change that.
I mean, I love it. You could see his eyes light up when he started to talk about Teddy, and then about halfway through, he's like, "Oh, Teddy's great. Teddy's gonna play. Teddy's gonna prevent these." And he's like, "Oh wait, actually, I didn't mean to say that he's gonna be our starting quarterback, but he's going to be. Like, stop messing with that hero ball stuff that I've been playing with for the last 5 years. We got a top 5 defense. We go. All we need is a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over. So stop trying to be a hero and let's get a new guy in there." That's what Von Miller was saying.
Well, I mean, also, both of these quarterbacks spent the week answering questions about Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, Teddy's fine, and we're not going to go down that road again. But it's the complete opposite of, like, the New York Giants that basically said, we have Daniel Jones, we're not going to go try to get anyone else. Like, Drew Lock has essentially been, like, soft-benched with the concept that if he blew Teddy away between now and September, he'd get the job back.
Yeah, I like the idea that Von Miller is saying that now that we're going to have Teddy Bridgewater in the building, all the problems aren't there because competition's good. And whatever comes bad out of a quarterback competitions, a lot of bad stuff comes out of quarterback competitions when the two quarterbacks competing aren't very good at quarterback. It doesn't always work out.
But they're different styles. He's just saying, like, can we please have a quarterback that just doesn't throw the ball up for grabs and put us on short fields? At least Teddy Bridgewater just will be safe and boring. Sometimes that's what you want.
We'll see. Safe and boring. Not always the best method either. All right, finally, Brian Flores, the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, talking about his quarterback, Tua.
I think you're just a little bit more comfortable. You know your surroundings. You know what's expected of you. You have better rapport with your teammates. I've seen him as well as a lot of the second-year players. And over the years, this is kind of what you see. They're just a little bit that better understanding of how we practice. We've seen that from him so far, and hopefully he continues to just grow and improve.
Hopefully he continues to go. I don't know. Is it just me, or is Brian Flores telling us, or is he telling himself that Tua is going to be okay?
He's just not trying to say anything.
A little bit of telling himself. I hear that too. And when the answer is 45 seconds long, when it could have been 10, that's how I answer questions sometimes when I don't have total confidence in the end result. You just wind on and on like I am right now.
I think he's just trying to put the media to sleep. It's the old Belichick method. He does have that nice, bass in his voice. It almost sounds like one of those comm app readers. Flores would be good at that. He's just trying to say nothing.
I mean, what he's trying to ultimately, though, I mean, and what he's trying to say here is, yeah, he's doing everything we want him to do. He's showing signs. But I think really there's subtext here. Like, he needs to do a lot better than he did as a rookie. And, oh, by the way, the guy taken right before him, Herbert, blew things up in the Chargers. And Brian Flores, he's thinking to himself, oh, no, if this doesn't work this year, everything that we've been building toward takes a massive detour, and not in a good way, because they will then have to be back in the quarterback market next year. You could build up the team the right way, as the Dolphins have done in recent years, but if you don't have that quarterback, you still have a long way to go. This is a big year for Tua. Very interesting. All right. Good stuff. Good translation. Coming up next, mailbag, including, is Tim Tebow actually helping out Urban Meyer? We don't need to show the Jets era of Tim Tebow's career in this little montage. We don't need it. Up next on the broadcast.
Got new footage.
Back on Around the NFL, and this week on the podcast, we conjured up our dream mailbag, the questions we really wish we were asked. Among them, who is the most overrated coach in the NFL? Ooh, sizzle. Stay negative. Find out our answers by scanning that QR code with your phone and downloading the latest ATN podcast. Okay. So, you had a fake mailbag on the podcast, now a real mailbag on the television show. Let's dig in, shall we? Starting with a little Tim Tebow query. Let's show it. Here we go from Ian McDonald. Is the Tebow signing in Jacksonville a nice smokescreen to take some of the attention away from Lawrence? Maybe Tim is actually doing Urban a solid and not the other way around. Hashtag, I like this one, Operation Teal Pony. What do you guys think on this? I feel like we've had an entire run of learning about Trevor Lawrence during the pre-draft process, that this was a guy that was genetically engineered, it seemed, to be a star in professional sports in our country. Totally unflappable. The idea that his head coach would be like, I need a smokescreen to protect this guy, I don't buy it.
I don't either, and I think Ian needs to step it up if he's going to be on NFL Network. What is this, Lawrence Maroney? You got to have some respect for Trevor Lawrence's name. Spell it right. Trevor Lawrence can carry that weight. I mean, he was in the center of the college football world for 3 years.
I mean, I like a good conspiracy theory, but I think we've gone a little too far into the wilderness on this one. It makes no sense. I mean, if anything, you're trying to shield Trevor Lawrence. He's already being pinged on like 15 Tebow questions a week, which is an unnecessary distraction in 2021. So I think it's the opposite. It's Urban Meyer doing Tim Tebow a solid 100%.
Talk about your all-time backfires. This guy brought in to take off some of the heat and be less of distraction. That becomes the distraction. Okay. Ari Babel. The other guy, by the way, work on getting an avatar. You need to have the image or people won't take you seriously. Here's
Gotta
Ari.
get the avatar.
Would Julio Jones to the Chiefs be a good idea in either the short term or the long term, Greg?
Absolutely. I mean, Julio would be a good idea for anyone that can figure it out. The Chiefs have some cap room. I think they're a little thin in terms of their weapons this year. If Kelsey or Tyreek Hill ever got hurt, it's not the same group as before. Make it happen. Win the Super Bowls while you can. Julio's still playing great.
Right. Super Bowl window wide open. Go for it. Keep restocking, keep reloading, keep giving more weapons to Patrick Mahomes, not less. I mean, they're one of the few teams that you can basically say, no matter what happens this autumn, they will be in the conference championship game. I don't even need to watch it. I know they will be. So toss Julio Jones into that mix. You're flying.
My Uncle Bill, who was known to say, what are the last 4 letters of American? I can. He also said, make sure you get an education in business because that will help you. I wish I did. I wish I listened to Uncle Bill because you know why? I don't understand the salary cap. I don't understand how the Chiefs could afford Julio Jones potentially. It just seems like they've signed 7 guys to massive extensions, but they probably can make it happen if they want to. That's why I need that help in the financial realm.
You need
Up
that
next,
degree.
Brian A. asks, Brady threw 3 picks in the NFC Championship game. Do you feel like he's getting the praise as if he was on an MVP level just because he's Brady? How about that, Greg?
No. I mean, is he getting that praise? He shouldn't. It's a fair point. Tom Brady was not playing at a top 8 or 10 level last year, I would say, until the stretch run of the season. He had a good playoffs. It was all about the defense, and Brady did his thing. I mean, he should get the praise because he's 40,000 years old and he's still playing at a top 10 level. Give him a break.
Look at a bad Tom Brady sizzle reel. I love it. We're just coming for him now. Mark.
I mean, I just say Brian A., who wrote the question. I mean, we were having this debate 5 years ago, and he's won like 3 Super Bowls since. So I kind of I'm tabling this debate when Tom Brady will fade away on our planet for a good long time because I'm convinced he might play for another 12 years at this point.
And look at the photo of Brian A. with his beautiful significant other. Mark, you once upon a time had that with that ex that we were talking about earlier. You lost it.
I mean, I'm happily married now, so I'm not sure where we're going with that. Why did these things keep coming up on the show? I mean, it doesn't feel like to be the space or the time, but
Tom, I'm out. Of course, I was #gradual decline. Tom Brady. I am out of that business. I'm just enjoying the ride. Richard McKinney asks, as a guy who's been a Bengals fan for years, even though I've been born and raised in Pittsburgh. Ooh, that's a toughie. These past few seasons have had me question my loyalty to the team. Do the heroes, that's an E and an S, have any advice to keep the faith alive? Erica Tamposi, by the way, you're amazing. Ooh, motto. I don't know. I feel like it. Yeah, keep the faith. And just hope that Joe Burrow is the same guy when he comes back from this very ugly knee injury.
Wouldn't it be the wrong time to jump out on the Bengals right now? You finally have a quarterback that it looks like it could electrify the city, that part of Ohio. You don't jump out now. If you've been through all this business, hang around for a bit more.
Right. It looks like the best group of receivers and running back in the entire AFC potentially. I believe that. That said, I do think, faith is great. But I think it's just as hard to walk away from your team and mean it. I mean, almost no one does that. Of course, our great friend Chris Wessling did it. So if that's what you're feeling in your heart, that you want to walk away, that takes guts too. Do what you feel.
Oh, stop. Why you always got to go that route, Greg?
I'm just saying, like, everyone acts like it's so important to be loyal to franchises that lose year after year, that ultimately are losers. It's harder to walk away. Almost no one walks away.
All right, Patriots fan. All right, finally, Greg, this one's for you. Wooking from home. I like that. Just want to know if Greg's shoulders hurt yet from carrying so much water for Matt Ryan for the last half decade. How's Greg's posture these days? Quick here, Greg.
I mean, it's okay. Look at these shoulders. They're pretty big. They're sneaky big. Like Daniel Jones, those traps aren't too bad. I mean, it's hard to keep track. Is Matt Ryan even in the top 5 guys I carry water for? He's a good quarterback. I don't think I go crazy on Matt Ryan.
I mean, for the viewer at home, Greg is like 5'3", so I'm not sure that the shoulder width is something that's blowing America away.
This is what matters.
But
this is all they show on TV. It's like, it's like a Tom Cruise
all the
situation.
carrying of the water for Teddy Bridgewater has given you traps of like Arnold Schwarzenegger when he did that movie, Pumping Iron. All right, closing the mailbag. Good job, everybody. Coming up next. Don't call it a comeback. LL Cool J. Ladies love Cool James. People don't know that. Anyway, comeback player of the year candidates. We share ours, but we're not going to be basic about it. Up next on the broadcast. Who will be on the field when your favorite team kicks off 2021? Find out over at NFL.com/projected starters as Greg projects starters for every team. This week, the AFC got the full treatment, meaning breakdowns for every team are now available. All right, with that in mind, 2021 Comeback Player of the Year. What a race it's going to be this year. Let's share some candidates. And I know, like, at the top, if you go to certain places in the desert, people saying Dak Prescott's the guy. Probably is. That's a good favorite for this race. But we're going to go a little bit under the radar. Greg, who do you have?
I'm going to start with Donta Hightower, the Patriots linebacker. Can you win Comeback Player of the Year coming back from an opt-out? I don't care. There's no rules to this award. No, I say you can. And one of the reasons he gets it is because the Patriots defense stunk without him. I think we realized how important he was to them. One of the problems in the NFL today is inside linebackers. What do you do with them on passing downs? Oh, you move Donta Hightower to defensive tackle or defensive end, and he ruins a Super Bowl right there. Bill Belichick didn't know what to do without Donta Hightower, his guy in the middle of the defense, and I think he'll come back and be a big factor.
You know, and I have a similar situation with my team and C.J. Mosley. He opted out last year, and, you know, Hightower, it should be noted, he's 31, and when you disappear from sports for a year and come back and you're in your 30s and you're playing a position that takes a lot of athleticism, will he still be Hightower? Well, we'll have to see there. Fair?
Yes.
Unfair?
Fair question.
I say the answer is yes. That's why he's going to win Comeback Player of the Year.
Obviously. There you go, Mark.
I mean, I would just say, first of all, that I'd like to take a year off from work and then come back and be handed out some sort of national award for what I do the next year. That sounds like a great plan. But I'm going with Sam Darnold. I mean, the narrative is there. This thing is so narrative driven, the Comeback Player of the Year. Sam Darnold down in Carolina, if he were to revive his career, I think number one, you'd have to say, wait a minute. Ryan Tannehill and Sam Darnold, two quarterbacks trapped in the Adam Gase prison, have won comeback player of the year. That would get people going. But also, I think it would also tell us, look, some of these quarterbacks that we want to become Patrick Mahomes in one season, it doesn't always happen that way. It takes development, time, environment. He's in a better environment now. If he had a big year, I think he'd get attention and votes along that avenue of comeback player.
Listen, I love Sam Darnold. It broke my heart the way things played out for Sam Darnold. I had a lot invested in Sam Darnold. I bought a number 14 jersey for my sons. That has no value anymore. But I have to be honest, he didn't show enough, especially in year 3, for me to feel like there's going to be a big leap. Maybe there will be. I hope for the best, but comeback player of the year, that's going to be a big leap.
But that's the thing. If he were great, he wouldn't be coming back from anything. So it's like he's been super milquetoast, so it sets it up well.
All right. Speaking of milquetoast, more than milquetoast, he was kind of a mess last year. Carson Wentz, and now he's starting over at the Colts. And this is not a popular take on this show. That's why I am alone riding the Wentz wagon. His fresh start here in Indianapolis. I put so much of this on Frank Reich, the QB whisperer, and his ability to get the most out of Wentz, who nearly won MVP with Reich at the controls a few years back. I know you guys are over this conversation, but I just think everything is in place here for him to have a big bounce back year, including a nice supporting cast around him.
If he wins that award, Frank Reich is winning Coach of the Year award. That's what it would take. And maybe it'll happen, and we'll go back to this clip, and we'll say Dan was a genius back in May. No, we'll forget about it. I will.
No, all right, throw Julio Jones in the mix, and I think you got something.
All right. Up next, Weekend Vibes. Weekend Vibes. Weekend
Vibes.
Including a Russell Wilson conspiracy theory. Come on, Mark.
That was like a chant thing. We were vibing.
Weekend Vibes time. Greg, get us going.
I am vibing with suspicion this week. I got a conspiracy theory about Russell Wilson. Usually it's Mark with all the theories. My theory is that he brought out all those trade talks and rumors early in the offseason to distract everyone from his collapse down the stretch. This guy was campaigning for MVP. It was almost untoward early last season, and then he played the worst half season of his career. No one blamed him at all, and so he brings up this trade talk so everyone gets off the scent. Everyone forgot about his bad season, and everyone forgot about the trade talks.
we've been talking about Mark's ex-girlfriend all show, but like, did Russell Wilson steal your girlfriend at some point in college or something, Greg? What you talk about this MVP campaign he launched? Where's your evidence on that?
I mean, he was doing interviews with NBC. It was like sources.
Oh, he did interviews.
It was a lot
all right,
of stuff. It was
Mark.
A lot of stuff.
Please. I would just, here's my vibe, and it's about our friend Greg Rosenthal, and I want to go back to these projected starters pieces they wrote. There's 8, 1 for each division. I wrote no article this week. It gets me potentially concerned that the editors will compare us, but Greg did an incredible job with this. If you are a football fan, if you are someone who covers football, engage, read it. You will learn something. It's one of the better things that comes out on NFL.com all year.
Wow. Thank you, Mark.
Where's the joke?
Nice.
Sure.
I already did a promo earlier about this. We didn't need to keep talking about it. Just all right.
Oh, well.
Finally, I got to say something about this. The Houston Texans, John McClain, he's a legend down there in Houston. For the first time in 45 years of covering the NFL, I'm seeing something new. No names, no numbers for the players. There's 50 new players almost. Idiotic, he says. Okay, I'm taking off my NFL media hat and putting on my fan hat. NFL teams, you work for us. We're the fans. The media is the conduit. Do your job. Don't make it harder for people to follow their teams. All right. Media hat back on. Thank you for watching. See you in a week.